And we're back. What's good, man?
Nothing much, nothing much. It's a wonderful, wonderful Friday. End of the week. This is where we jump in for our Dianoia stirring it up. We just bring some random topics of things that came across the interwebs, the news, things that popped up on our timelines, and we just chop it up with some interesting, random, connected stories. No, I still got this monitor on. Hold on, my bad. All right, cool. So, how was
Absolutely.
your week up until this day?
It's good, man. I'm enjoying it. The MAGA community is falling apart because suddenly they have to talk about policies. They don't have any policies other than racism, sexism, misogyny, homophobia, xenophobia, Islamophobia. They don't have policies. They just have hate. And so now that they have to deal with, the wonderful Kamala Harris, they're starting to fall apart. And I am here for it, bro. They're getting exposed for being the weird little people that they are. The guys who fetishize men in dresses and then get mad that they're turned on by it. It's so weird. It's so weird. And I'm here for it.
Well,
Finally.
with that being a segue, to men
Yeah,
in
go ahead.
dresses. There's a man that used to wear a dress that played for the NBA by the name of Dennis Rodman. And to my surprise, I did not know this, but he has a daughter named Trinity Rodman, and she plays soccer. She's currently in the Olympics, the 2024 Paris Olympics. And so the USA team opened it up with a 3-0 victory over Zambia, and she scored the opening goal, and it was a nice little move. I sent you the clip. I don't know if you got a chance to watch it or
Yeah, I
not.
saw it.
But they're calling it the Trin spin. And so with her kicking and scoring the opening goal in the U.S. win over Zambia, so she popped up in the news, and I was like, Trinity Rodman. I'm like, what? And then I found out she's the daughter of Dennis Rodman. And then on top of that, because the Olympics, she's in it. Dennis Rodman, her famous NBA player father. We come to find out that she's also dating a NFL player by the name of Trinity Benson, and I guess she just came out in the opening and announced their relationship and everything. So to me, that was quite interesting. Because I was like, who is this and why is this on my timeline? Why is this coming across? But to get some quick backstory about it, Trinity Rodman, she scored the opening goal for the USWNT in their 3-0 victory over Zambia in the first game of the 2024 Olympic Games women's soccer tournament. Her goal showcased her technical skills and helped the U.S. establish dominance early in the game. So that's an awesome thing. Her goal came 17 minutes into the first half, and it was a dazzling little move. She got a pass, she did a little turn, did a little spin, kicked it straight into the goal. Kind of an awesome thing. So that's how I was going to segue from the people who cared about men in dresses to a men in the
Yeah,
dress
I
who also
mean,
has kids.
absolutely. I'm sure they were obsessed about, Dennis Rodman and his dresses. Let's go to something more interesting. I mean, not more interesting, but more interesting than MAGA supporters and their weirdness. And so it turns out that in Africa, there are there are native people, tribesmen, and they've been in conflict for years with the gorillas. And I was really surprised to hear this because gorillas are endangered in Africa, but they created laws for how they can engage with the gorillas for the tribesmen who are still living off the land. And so they're not allowed to use weapons or guns. They can only use arrows or their hands. And they've been losing these battles to the gorillas. Furthermore, the gorillas are starting to go into towns now. And just like you see the elephants moving into the certain areas to farmland, because they've been compromising their lowlands and the forests. And so they're like, well, if you're going to come into our areas, we're going to come into your areas. So now they're starting to go into farms and take food directly from the farmers. And that has created this big old conflict between gorillas and humans. And it kind of reminds me of what it was like probably 100, 200,000 years ago when other larger primates were still in North America and around the world. And I wondered how humans and the primates of that time engaged with one another. Because I wasn't even aware that there were these conflicts between tribesmen and gorillas. They've been hunted because they're a beautiful animal, and we have terrible humans who go and poach
Mhm.
and try to do terrible things like that. So you have poachers who do these things. But I did know there were humans in conflict with gorillas, and like almost always losing conflicts to them. And I listened to the video, and the video is kind of annoying because it was like, well, once one of the humans lose to a gorilla, they hate them. Like, shut up, that's so stupid. That's dumb. That's like saying you get bit
I
by a dog and
remember
you hate the
seeing that
dog.
part
You
of the
might be
video too. That was
fearful
really
of the
wild.
dog, but you don't hate dogs. You fearful of them. And of course, it makes sense if you ever lose a battle to a gorilla and survive, you're gonna be fearful of the gorilla. They're so big, but they also don't really care about humans. Like they're not overly aggressive towards humans. That's why you always see videos of them in the lowlands or in the forest, and you'll see them just like sitting next to a human. As long as you're not like in their way and threatening to them, they could care less because they, for probably hundreds of thousands of years before we became the apes that we are, we probably lived in harmony with gorillas. We probably had a culture relationship with them. It's not until we started building out our cities and having weapons and then going into their areas and cutting down the forest because we want to have an extra tree because we don't want to have a better technology. We want to have to create something that'll make us work a little bit harder to create the goods that we need. So I just thought that was an interesting story where you have these, where it seems like it's wars between tribesmen and gorillas. And they were talking about how many people it would take to take down a gorilla. And some of them, and the numbers were stupid, because of course you don't know, because the tribesmen or these tribes are not communicating with, the city folk. They don't want anything to do with us. So there was so much conjecture about, well, some people say it takes 12. The gorillas, from what I understand, have the strength of 10 men. That doesn't mean 10 men can take on a gorilla. It just means they have the strength of 10 men. Their strength is that level. It's likely that there ain't enough men out there to coordinate together to take on a gorilla. Because it's a losing battle. Once one grabs onto one man, you're down to 9. What are they going to do? He killed that one, and then another, and you just line them all up to get attacked. It's an interesting story. I found it funny and interesting that there is still a wild world out there, and it's becoming more in conflict with us. I mean, when you think about it, you got orcas downing yachts. We got in San Diego sharks, great white sharks that live pretty much in harmony with surfers, which is odd compared to the rest of the world. Because in San Diego, there's rarely there are attacks, but they're rare. And then when they do happen, it's like you can understand the conflict. Like the water was super murky one day. It was a juvenile shark, and usually it's non-fatal. But overall, I remember when I used to go surfing off the coast of San Diego, there would be the first thing that Dr. Dickinson said to me was to me and Mike was, there are great white sharks out here. They're going to be around you. Get over it. They're not going to mess with you. And I literally said to Dr. Dickinson, I don't want to be the first black guy to be eaten by a shark in San Diego. But we would be out there surfing, and never once, I mean, there were sharks there. You could see sharks. They never once bothered you. It's very interesting because this is very odd. This is not particularly the behavior that you see in other countries. In Australia and off the coast of Africa, which have some of the same conditions that San Diego has, cold water, murky, turbid, hot, lots of waves, they have much more shark attacks, fatal shark attacks, like where people are completely eaten by sharks. And in San Diego, it's rare for there to be a shark attack. And when there is a shark attack, it's hardly ever fatal. And when it is fatal, it's like very particular conditions. And they showed video where it was hundreds of surfers and like 30 great white sharks just like swimming around them, looking up at them, coming by them, and then swimming away once they figured out what it was. And my theory was is because off the coast of Africa and in Australia, they put these nets up. They try to keep sharks away from them, so sharks are not used to being around them. In my theory, where in San Diego, we don't do any of that. We don't We don't go after sharks. You're not allowed to fish for sharks off the coast of California because they're considered a protected species. So surfers and sharks are in the waters with each other all the time. And so they're used to each other's presence and they're not aggressive towards one another. The surfers are not being aggressive or being crazy when they're around the sharks. And the sharks aren't being aggressive. I mean, they're being interested because they'll come up and check them out, but they're not kicking at them or being aggressive towards them. And so they figure out that this isn't food. This is just another thing that I live in harmony in this area. And because there's so many surfers and so many sharks, they just have a certain level of respect for each other. Maybe this is like a learned set of conditions. And it's so interesting is that I think it's the University of South Beach or Los Angeles. No, it's Long Beach. The University of Long Beach is doing a study on the great whites in San Diego because of this reality where the sharks and the surfers rarely ever have conflict. And one of the things they highlight is because in California, we also have a protected beach for seals. So the sharks have a large amount of food, mammalian food. And so because they have this mammalian food, they don't actually go after the humans there because the seals in San Diego are also protected. So the sharks are protected and the seals have their own beach and they're protected. And because they are able to have this thriving environment, we actually have a healthy niche here in Southern California. We actually see that there's a positive relationship between surfers and great white sharks and seals. So it's a very interesting set of conditions. And maybe this is be something that they can learn, the tribesmen can learn from when it comes to gorillas and having a, minimal or tenable relationship. Did you get to watch that video
When I
I
watched
sent
that
you?
video, hmm?
Did you get to watch the
What
video?
was that? Yeah, that was about to speak on. So when I watched the video, I kind of get what's going on. My big thing is it's the new modern world that we are trying to implement certain things, and the people that would probably be traditionally able to live and coexist with the gorillas there because we put certain things in, and when I say we, I just mean the modern human. About this is a protected species because unfortunately other humans have almost hunted them to the brink of extinction. I think in
Mm-hmm.
one part they were saying how this one tribe was living in this area, and this area it was 1,000 of this one type of species of gorilla, but because they wanted to put them protected they then moved the actual humans from that area that they had basically inhabited since basically the dawn of time. So it's
Mm-hmm.
one of those things like, do you actually remove some people who probably have the ability to live in the same place with this animal, or do you protect this animal at no matter what cost, even if the living conditions that you're going to take these people from who are basically kind of semi-nomadic, they stay in the area for a certain amount of time, but they kind of rotate around a certain territory, but then you take them and you put them in certain areas of dilapidated housing, tin roof housing and stuff, because you don't want them there interacting with the gorillas because you're trying to protect them. But now you've changed these people whole culture and way of life, that even in the video they stated that the people said that they do not like the conditions that they're being forced to live in because they can't go back to the land that they basically had traditionally had. So that was one of those things that I did find like, I don't know. I mean, yes, I don't think any species on the face of this earth should be put to extinction. But then again, I also understand that if these people have already built something with the way they live, then kind of leave them alone. But the only
Mm-hmm.
reason you're concerned is because other people from probably outside of the area hunted this species, this gorilla, to the brink that where there's only like 1,000 left. So who do you punish? Who do you save? Who do you correct? And who are you going to jeopardize by moving them from one place to another? That's what I really took away from it. So,
Yeah, it's messy. It's a messy situation. It's one that
oh,
we
and
created, right?
oh, and then the other part is the fact that the reason the gorillas are winning, and I paid attention to the way the video was titled, which was a very interesting title. Particularly, I got why it was titled that way for YouTube because it says "gorillas evict," and like gorillas can't evict, but basically the government protecting the gorillas evicted the tribes from their land.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, no, it's a messy situation, right? And the onus is really on modern behavior, and it has to change. You know, we're responsible for this planet. You can't just a planet without these apes is less magical. This planet without the wildlife is less magical and probably untenable. It probably will not survive. If these beautiful animals go extinct, they're an important part of the ecosystem. Just because they're macro and you can see them and you can, you know, take advantage of them because they're so easy, right? Doesn't mean that having to sacrifice for them is something that we shouldn't have to do. It really does expose this selfishness in humanity, this inability to be honest. Like, uh, the conflict that you're seeing in Africa is probably a lot less worse than what it would be if it was in the United States. Americans are so damn selfish. And you see it when you have like obvious facts in front of you and individuals can't respond to it in a particularly logical way. Like, I'm loving everything that's going on in the United States right now because for first time in a long time, the conversation and the onus on logic is being placed on a particular group of people. And you're seeing the delirium that they're suffering from. When it comes to like moral, like true moral, accountability. Just the same as these gorillas. When you see you're morally responsible for protecting them, that means that you have to give up some rights. And sometimes you have to make messy decisions about pulling certain people out of a community that they've always been in because of the decisions of all humanity, right? These tribesmen suffer because of humanity. And even though they might see themselves as separate, they are still a part of us. And even for them, they will have to take some onus and responsibility that they didn't create this situation. But because of their connection to humanity, you have to make that sacrifice. And it seems unfair, but it's proper. And I think a lot of people in the United States are realizing that as well right now because there are just some absurd things being said. Like, I mean, I don't want to get into the politics, man, but I got this message that I just read. I mean, I wonder, this message says it all, right? So I'm just going to read the message and we're not going to talk about it more than that. But the message was this. The guy said, Democrats' morals are the illusion. And my response to him was like, yeah, healthcare, affordable housing, living wages, the freedom from healthcare debt, women's rights, protecting children from guns. Yeah, those morals, my God, they are just out of touch with reality. When you see what I'm talking about? Like, you have to be in such a state of denial of the environment you're in to not actually be able to recover from the pain of losing something when logically you shouldn't have it. And so protecting the gorillas is important because they are a profoundly unique species. Just like China jumping, just going through the hoops trying to save pandas. It's not because pandas are a profoundly unique species. One that without the help of humans probably would go extinct because they picked a food that has like no nourishment and they will only eat this food. If like any other, I guess they're marsupials, right? They have a pouch where the animal goes into. No, they're not marsupial, but they're born are like these little dots, which would be marsupials, because you see how like a kangaroo would have his baby, but the baby's this little turd that then crawls up into his pouch, and then for another 6 months will nurse off of that and stay inside the pouch until it's able to grow. Unlike the panda, which is a mammal, but it still has this little dot thing that just attaches itself to itself until it can then become large enough to live on its own. And because of the ways that we destroy the environment, it makes it almost impossible for this animal to survive without human intervention. So it's just interesting to see the world and see how our actions have really compromised it. And now the sacrifices we'll have to make to redeem ourselves. Um, yeah. With that said, we can segue, which is a bad segue, right into Kevin Spacey's, house. I mean, maybe this is not a bad segue. This dude has way too many houses, which is kind of selfish. And the fact that I guess this one it was $3.2 million. I couldn't tell where this was, but it definitely did not seem like it was in the United States.
Yes, it's in the United States. So, actor Kevin Spacey's his Baltimore waterfront condo is a 5-level, 9,000 square foot property was sold at auction for $3.24 million. $3.24 million.
Five levels.
Not 5 levels. Yes.
That is crazy. So he has his own floating home.
Well, it's not floating. It's at the waterfront, down by the Inner Harbor. If you've been to Baltimore, the area will be somewhat familiar. But there's basically like a condo row, and the city of Baltimore has a lot of renovations going on. I mean, every city in America, for the most part, once gentrification and all that stuff hit, they all got new areas. Waterfront property is exclusive. So he had this place. He bought it back in 2017 for $5.65 million. And this is also when he was playing in the one show, Succession, I think it was called, maybe?
No, he was on the Netflix show. Let me go ahead and speak more on it. I'll give you the name of the show.
On the one major show. But when all the allegations for his sexual assault and all those things came out, he's been having a hard time basically trying to get any other new or current acting gigs in the Hollywood community. And so he was unable to pay for this, so it went into the foreclosure. When it went into foreclosure, shortly after that, it was going to be sold at auction. And basically, the winning bid was significantly lower than the original price. And the condo, just to give a quick description, has 6 bedrooms, 7 full bathrooms, 3.5 baths, a chef's kitchen, a home theater, a sauna, a billiards room, and also an elevator. So because he is unable to work, and he does have this property because I guess when they were shooting a lot of the show, I keep saying it was Succession or West Wing or something like that.
It was a House of Cards.
Huh? House of Cards.
House of Cards.
It was a political show. But that is the reason that ever since that show ended and he can't get another job, that is why he was unable to pay for this, and then it had to go into foreclosure. It was just another big trending thing that was popping up, especially with the whole change of the way certain cities are changing stuff. And then you can say that people can have this super expensive property that they don't live in.
Nope.
That they can decide, especially if you are somewhat well off, that you're not going to pay for it no more. And then somebody got a nice little decent deal on it. So they got a nice little waterfront property for less than the initial purchase price that he paid for. So
I mean, it's still overpriced. $5 million or $3.25 million, 5 stories. How much space do you need as one little human?
But that's
that's a bit absurd right there.
Be comfortable.
I mean, yeah, how comfortable? I mean, Kenny, I don't need that much space. 5 levels, and that place looked like I thought that was an apartment complex. I thought that was a condo complex with multiple housing units. I did not know that was just his one place.
It is multiple condos, but he owns like one big section of the actual condo. So
okay. So there's sections.
Yeah, but
that makes more sense now. Then,
if you see like one color scheme of one part of that building, basically he roams from the ground all the way up 5 levels, basically.
So that's way too much space. That's crazy.
Parties, have get-togethers, have family. Think about it. You're the rich, famous family
Kevin Spacey. I don't know if he has family, and I definitely know he doesn't have kids. And he in there by himself, maybe with a mate. That's it. That's still crazy. Like Tupac said. He says, why do you have a house with 10 bedrooms in it and it's just you by yourself? It's not you and all your family and your family's family. It's you by yourself. I can understand it if you had like a 12-bedroom house and your entire family lives there. Your children's live there. Everybody's living in this one house. That I can understand. And that makes sense. But these houses that are huge have hundreds of acres of land and there's 2 people living there, sometimes 1 person.
Yeah, but people
That's
want their
just
space.
that's
Not
absurd.
everybody
With the fact that
wants
we
to
don't
be
have
around
enough
other people
housing.
all the time.
You said what?
I said some people want their space. Not everybody wants to be around other people all the time.
Again, Kenny, I'm sorry. That's not how it works. You can have your space if everybody has a space, but not everybody has a space.
Yes,
And that is
true, and
where
that's
it lies.
unfortunate.
And I'm
But
not talking about
that
your
would be
2-bedroom house or your 3-bed. I'm talking about there are mansions that take up large swaths of land, which could be incorporated to make multiple housing for people. And yet somehow this person feels like they should get this whole mountain to themselves. I disagree. It's selfish. It's just selfish. No matter how you try to sell it.
But there are people that want to do that and will do
I
that.
know there's people, of course. You don't think I would want to do that? But it's still wrong.
You said it's selfish. I don't think you would want to do something that's selfish. I mean,
no. People are selfish. I'm not even going to even front like I can't be selfish. But what I'm saying is, it's like there's a reality here. I mean, there's truth. And that is a bit absurd to be living on such a large amount of space. And guess what? Everybody will want to. But just because you want to, don't you mean you should. Like they said in Jurassic Park, you guys spend so much time figuring out if you could. No one asked the question if you should. And that's the most important question is, should you? Because there's no question that you could or that you would want to.
But yeah, so either way, he does no longer have that. And so that is out the picture. And the one last story that is kind of a sad news to some and just indifferent to others is the Xbox 360 marketplace is closing down. So this gaming console, this is like the one that I had when I was on the ship that we ran LAN wires to all around the ship, and everybody used to play Halo, all these other games. This one got me through a bunch of underway time. And so it is closing down. They are moving on. And the big thing that Microsoft is trying to do is get away from the actual consoles. They're pushing more towards just completely a digital thing. But that gets kind of scary because that falls into the same realm with how we say you shouldn't have to pay subscriptions for everything, as in like using like CapCut and all that stuff. But the place where you can get actual disc and stuff is going away. You're going to just be able to download stuff for the new Xbox One. And then even with that, a lot of the news reports are saying that Microsoft itself is trying to get away from consoles. They just want you to have a PC, and then your PC will have the Xbox stuff already, integrated into it, and then you would just play like that. So they'll get you locked into their whole Microsoft world and system. So
I would say, I don't know if there's a place for that. There are people who like consoles, and there are people who like computers. And they're not usually the same person. Like I could care less about a computer. I don't want to have to go buy a computer. I don't want to have to upgrade that thing constantly. I don't want to have to deal with constantly. There's a big difference. When there's a video game that comes out on a console, it's going to work on that console, right? You don't need no new driver, no new video cards. But when it comes to computers, when they make a new game, they don't take in consideration the video cards. They're like, oh, we want this to play on, a 2077. Well, you might have a 2077. You might have a 2070. And they want it on to be the 2777 video card. Okay, well, now you have to go get a brand new video card. So you're not buying just the game, but you got to buy the video card. And then you have these scalpers now who are raising the cost of the video cards as soon as it comes out. Because they know that for you to even engage with your system with these new games, you have to have the video card. So I can buy this video card and sell it for $1,000 and make a killing on it. And therein lies where the problem is. I don't want to deal with computers. I've learned that after 2019, I don't want anything to do with them because I saw exactly what scalpers did. And I ain't gonna lie, I was lucky. I got up late this is exactly how it happened to me. I got up late. I heard that the Xbox Series X was for sale. I opened my iPad. I clicked on the button. I bought it. I didn't know that other people were having problems. I didn't get up early in the morning, get in the line. I literally got up late, clicked the button. It was in my thing. I checked out, had no problem. Then I was getting phone calls from people like, yo, man, I can't get this. I'm not getting a chance. There's no way for me to get this. What's going on? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I had no problems finding this, you know. I had no problems even getting into my cart. Same thing when it came to Cyberpunk 2077. Bought the game, never had any problems. I mean, there were glitches and it would crash once in a blue moon, but I never had any T-posing. I never had any graphic issues. I just had what you sometimes have with video games, you know? There's a little buggy until they come up with an update. Never had any issues. Then they came out with the PlayStation 5. Once again, I got up late, clicked on the button, put it in my cart, bought it, and then I realized that people were having problems getting it. I can't get it. Oh my god, these scalpers bought them all. Now I will admit, I got it for my daughter, but her mom bought her one, so I sold mine for like $800, $900.
Okay.
You know,
Nothing
but
wrong with that.
I was going to keep it and give it to her as a gift for the season. I was not thinking that people were having problems getting it. You know, it was just one of those situations. That's why I would much rather deal with consoles because I can keep that console for its lifetime, which the Xbox 360. Man, I have so many memories of Halo. Me and Mike getting together, playing Halo, some of our funnest, best games ever. I mean, till this day, we still have jokes about things that we did in that game together. I remember once me and Mike were playing and our entire team quit. So it was me and him versus a whole team of people. And we were destroying them. Because we would just go hide in this little room. We were playing, I think, I don't know, some board that had this building. Me and him went and hid in the building and was just dropping them as they kept coming in. So then their plan was to regroup at the beach. So me and him went and got on top of the building and were just sniping them as they were running to the beach. Just dropping them as they were running to the beach. And then one time we were playing a big team battle, and we died next to each other. But we died and we were holding each other's hand. It looked like we were holding each other's hands as we went down the hill. It was we did a video capture of it, and I still have it somewhere of me and him dying and flowing down the hill. Looked like we were holding hands. Funniest moments, you know. We just had
All right.
the best fun. Halo was a great game. I don't like it now, but Halo was a fun game then, man. I really had fun. I had so many memories of playing Halo. I mean, I remember one game where I got an award. I had 130 kills. I had every medal you can get in the game. Me and him got in the Warhog and destroyed his team in big team battle. We were just mowing them down until someone threw a bomb and made our truck go off the edge of the base, and we ended up dying. But another fun memory, you know. So it's kind of sad that the Xbox 360, which is so pivotal to like my 20s, is now closing its doors. So many people have memories of it because some of the best games were on that console. Games that you can't find today. Like one of my favorite games was Wet. If you ever played that game, you know what I'm talking
What game?
about. It's called Wet. And so it was a shooter. It was like a first person shooter, but
Okay.
it was slow motion. So you had ability to slow down an area, and then you could do certain stunts to shoot everybody in the space. It was like a stunt first person shooter. It was very unique.
Kind of like
And
it did stuff in bullet time. Bullet time, like the
yeah, it was
Matrix.
bullet time. It was all about bullet timing. So, you know, it was kind of like, okay, you know what it was? It was during the time of Matrix. So, you know how in Matrix where they were like slow things down and you have bullet timing? It was pretty much that. And it was a very fun game, man. And it's gone forever now. Can't buy it nowhere. I mean, I guess you could maybe find it on um, Amazon, maybe for like $100. It's just hard. These games are so important, and that's what we don't talk about. There are games that are now extinct that people play, and that are probably better than a lot of games that exist right now, and you'll never be able to get it back because of all kinds of legal issues, music rights, you know, digital producers rights, companies that have gone out of business, and now the rights to that game belongs to somebody who just sits on it and will sit on it forever until someone tries to do something with it. So it's unfortunate.
True. Well, I think that's all we have for today's show. We covered pretty much a little bit of everything from here to there. We talked about Trinity Rodman, talked about our relationship, talked about the Olympics. We dropped in on the gorillas that are battling the villagers in Africa. We talked about Kevin Spacey and his big ass condo. And then we ended up with the going goodbye of the Xbox 360 marketplace. And just so y'all know, it actually closes down on July 29th. They do say that it's not going to affect anything for multiplayer, so all that stuff is still going to be available. And then if you do have any games or anything for Xbox 360, it is going to be backwards compatible with any of the new Xbox consoles that come out. So if you still have those discs, you can still play them on any new console that you get. But I'm pretty sure that Microsoft is getting away from doing anything with the actual physical disc now. So everything's going to be a download, a DLC, and all that good stuff. With that being said, let me acknowledge Mento G, who's been running up the chat in the background. No questions, just comments about good times. I think we were talking about the Xbox 360,
Yeah.
Magical Gorillas, and 2025 is going to be lit.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
So, with that being said, you want to say anything in closing?
Nah, with that said, we just like to thank everybody. Mental G, what's going on, bro? Good to see you. And we'll catch you guys this Tuesday on the Dianoia Live. And until then, have a great weekend. And everybody, take care.
Be safe. Kenny out.